Glass of wine,
That's
couple
right.
bottles, raging alcoholic, or heart healthy.
Is there something wrong with being a raging alcoholic?
No, it's the trust tree. You're fine.
I felt a lot of judgment coming across that.
No, we're good.
We put a lot of our, I think as conservatives, we put a lot of our kind of faith in one person to bring us all these things that we want. And he's done a good job, but I don't know, he's done some things that bother me lately. I don't know about you, but he's done some things that are, like the Epstein thing really bothered me, where he came out, oh, it's just a hoax. Like, what? I think we elected you partly because we talked about that's what we wanted revealed. And he's trying to, I feel like he's trying to condition people to see that this is not a big deal, which makes him look guilty. Am I wrong about that?
I just read something on that this morning from, what's his name, Alan, is it Dershowitz?
Yeah.
I guess he was Epstein's attorney for a little bit.
Yeah.
And according to him, he says there is no list. He goes, however, it's not the Trump administration that's blocking this. Just so you guys know, it's 2 judges that have said, no, we're not releasing any of this right now, mostly to protect the victims. Because if they release everything, it won't be redacted, I guess. And right now, all of their names are redacted. So he goes, it's more to protect the victims than it is. But that's what's going on. And I'm like,
dude, there's always just a really convenient, like, other side of the story, that protects them.
well, do you feel like a guy like Dan Bongino would, unless there was something really like crazy, like I feel like he's the kind of guy that's ready. I don't care what
Who's
you
in
say.
so is Pam Bondi ultimately have the final decision on that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I
because
mean-
like Dan Bongino may want it to happen, but he may not have the authority to actually make it happen. And even with Pam Bondi, I wonder if Trump could block her. It probably could. I don't know. Like it just like some of his comments just seem odd. They don't seem like someone who wants to get to the bottom of it. It seemed like someone who's, I don't know. And how Trump operates, it could be just simply like him trying to make another, I don't know, some more PR. I don't know. But it's not a good look. And I know a lot of people, with the thing with Iran, him bombing Iran, I know a lot of conservatives didn't like that. And then this Epstein issue, people are like, and then he goes after Thomas Massey. I don't know if you saw that, but he goes after Thomas Massey. He goes after, I think his name's Brian Hawley. I might be getting his first name wrong, but from Missouri. Just because they don't support his bills, like, man, dude, like, we like these guys. Like, they helped you get elected, bro. Like, you didn't get elected just because you're Donald Trump. It's because of Elon Musk and because of all the people that surrounded him. So you got to understand that, because you're going to alienate your base. And there's already a bunch of big people out there, big podcasters, Candace Owens included. I know people think that she's a little conspiracy theorist, but she's got a lot of good things to say. And they're like, there's a lot about what he's doing that they don't support.
Well, Trump is Trump. He's going to rub people the wrong way, and then he's going to make friends again. You look
That's true.
You look at J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was a staunch critic of Trump's, and now he's his vice president. You look at Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio was not a Trump fan, and now he's one of his top guys.
Wasn't he like small hand? What was his name? Little hands or mini hands? Remember when they were in that?
You give him this, no matter what he does, he's going to come up with some good one-liners. He's going to have some good nicknames for people too.
For sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is just a part of the enigma of Trump.
Yeah. He
will not be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he is going to get things done. And I feel like he's done a lot already in his first 6 months. But yes, he has definitely pissed people off, so to speak, with his tariffs, with Epstein, as you mentioned. So I think we have to pay attention to the next year to see if he gets our economy back in order, to see if he gets the housing situation back in order. We've already seen the most secure border in American history since he's been president over the past 6 or 7 months. But what he can do in the next year is really going to be defining, and it really is going to, I think, set the tone for how voters are going to look at Republicans in the next election.
What do you think about the tariffs? So, I mean, there's so much, it's so hard to really understand what's going on because we're just people out here on the outside. You might have more information than we do. All we can see is kind of the results that are fed to us by mainstream media. On one side, you've got tariffs are terrible. On one side, you got tariffs are great. What do you think?
So I
left
think he's
tariffs.
using tariffs as a bargaining chip. I think he's using it to flex on other nations. I also think he's using tariffs to get America our fair share of funding that we have been giving to other countries for decades now. And he is just trying to put America in a position where we are reaping from our economy, from the workers here. And so I think this is all going to work out. I know we've seen craziness with the stock market every time something new comes out with the tariffs, but I do think this is a bargaining chip, and I do think he is trying to set America up for success and to be on an even playing field with other nations.
You said something that it just clicked in my head. I didn't think about it before, but you said he's trying to get America our fair share. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't the Democrats be all for that? Because aren't they the fair share people?
They are.
Right?
They want everybody to pay their fair share. I thought that's what.
Mm-hmm. But it is Trump, so anything that Trump does, they don't like.
That's true.
So,
True.
Yeah, I just don't understand. We're still waiting for the Great Depression to happen. That was supposed to happen days after the tariffs went into effect.
Well,
I haven't seen that. My retirement accounts are doing amazing.
Yeah,
which is
stock market's up.
counterproductive to what I was told in the media. I thought wasn't the whole country supposed to collapse? And
But you mentioned housing too. So, there's parts of the market that are going up. The stock market's going up, and it feels like inflation is being curbed. But there's still wage issues. I think that's why the market's still a little stagnant. And then housing is a big deal. A lot of people are talking about. What do you think about how we can fix that and how it's going?
So we need to open up supply in Arizona. Governor Katie Hobbs, I want to say 2 years ago, put a moratorium on home building in Buckeye and Queen Creek, the two most booming areas of the Metro Phoenix Valley, also the two most conservative areas of the Metro.
Moratorium. What's a moratorium?
She stopped home building.
Oh, she stopped it. Okay.
She stopped home building in Buckeye and Queen Creek, saying that we didn't have enough water, and this was based off of a faulty forecasting model that basically said in 100 years, if we put all these homes up, we're not going to have enough water to sustain these homes. And it was a flawed, unscientific model. And so she put a moratorium up on home building, and that is contributing to our skyrocketing prices. We need to open up supply. We need building to happen. The state of Arizona is short about 270,000 housing units. And so you have people that want to move into homes, but they can't afford the homes because there's not enough homes around. So one of the issues, again, is just opening up supply. Prices should come down. But another issue also is the Fed bringing down interest rates. I just bought a house last year as my very first home. I'm at a 7.1 interest rate. It is insane. A lot of families can't do that. A lot of working class folks can't afford that. So I think that's another big issue. We need more homes, and we need those interest rates to come down.
yeah, that's significant. You don't really. I mean, the interest rates are huge, but it's when you think about. At one point, they were 2%, right? And then and let's just say, so when I bought my first house, it was 7%, and then I refied down to 4.2, and even 4.2 was high when people were paying 2%. But the difference between I was like 7.3 to 4.25 when I refied was $400 a month.
That's a big deal.
That's huge. Like that's so, and with the price of houses now, it could be an even bigger swing. It could be $500, $600, $800 just in that 3 or 4%.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a mess. So I have seen Trump putting pressure. Everyone has seen Trump putting pressure on the Fed to drop interest rates. Hasn't happened yet. So hopefully that does happen soon.
I heard an article the other day that said even if the interest rates do drop, the wages still aren't enough, especially for younger people, to even be able to buy a house at 3% because the housing market's so high and the wages aren't there. You see that too?
I do. But also the price of everything is pretty high right now. Since Trump entered office, gas prices have gone down, but the inflation we've seen that has accrued from 2020 to 2025 has not gone back to where we were, you know, just before the pandemic, and people's wages haven't caught up with that. We're paying thousands of dollars more per year for our cost of living than we were in 2020, and we're not making thousands of dollars more per year.
And it's hard for me to see that coming down because, you know, when you go to the grocery store, competition could drive that down, but what's the incentive for companies to lower their prices on things, you know? So once you have an inflationary period and everybody, because I'm a business owner, once everybody has to start raising their prices because your costs are going up, everybody's costs are going up, you have to raise your prices. You don't tend to bring them back down,
right?
Because you know that eventually things are gonna, you know, you're gonna have to constantly be readjusting. So you just leave them at that same rate. You know, the dollar's going to get weaker, and it's all going to catch up again. You're going to have to raise them again at some point in the future. So I don't see those costs coming back down. I guess what has to happen is wages have to go up, and for wages to go up, if you think about it logically, like the economy has to get started again, right? Because businesses have to keep bringing in money and being able to hire more people and pay them more, and I think that's the key: is how do we get the businesses kick-started again? I don't know what industries are doing what right now, but I know our industry is pretty slow. And so it's like, okay, there's got to be that initial kick of people buying or some influx of cash in these businesses so that the businesses can grow and hire more people and pay higher wages.
That makes sense. I think once we get inflation in order, things are going to be better, but we keep inflating away our debt. And so we're weakening our dollar. And so I don't see an end to this. I know with DOGE, President Trump is doing everything he can to cut waste, fraud, and abuse, but there's a lot of it in government. And so that has a direct impact on taxpayers. Those are tax dollars. So,
did you like your tax dollars going to the bombs in Iran? Were you a supporter of the Iranian nuclear facility bombing, or were you one of those people who said, I think we should have left that alone?
Oh, no, 100%. I think our world is in danger as long as deranged individuals have access to nuclear weapons. And it's funny because those are the types of things that should keep people up at night. We have so much evil in this world. We have these evil powers that just want total control. And the only way they are going to seek control is through destruction. And that's exactly what Iran would have done with those nuclear weapons. So 100% I am in support of America taking action to make the world a safer place. And I think that's what President Trump did.
Yeah, I think, for years, right? So we've been talking about Iran for a long time, supporting, state-funded terrorism and whatnot. But then you look at, Obama dropping pallets of cash in the middle of the night and like getting rid of sanctions and whatnot. Like, hey, here's the line in the sand. We're going to give you $400 million on a pallet in cash, and then we're going to release some of these sanctions, but you got to play ball. And then they don't. And then so the line gets moved. Now he goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this. Now you got to play ball, and they don't. Biden did nothing to curb any of that stuff. So I feel like at a certain point, they know that, like for 4 years when we had Trump, everybody was in line. North Korea was not launching missiles. They were playing ball. Iran, everybody was playing ball because they were scared. What's going to happen? If we piss this guy off enough, what's going to happen? Then you had 4 years of God knows what, and everybody was running amok. Russia decides, hey, now's the time to go into Ukraine. And I think nobody was afraid of any consequences. And now I think they see, okay, he said he was going to do it, and he did it. Maybe we should listen. That's how I kind of view it.
And he didn't escalate it too. I think that was the key. That wasn't, as of now, it's not been escalated anymore. And I think that was important for people who, whether you're on the side of in favor of taking those actions against Iran or not, the fact that he didn't escalate it and didn't put boots on the ground or whatever, I think was an important point. Like Trump said, he campaigned on wanting to make sure that Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon. So okay, that's what we voted for. But escalating it to that, what we've seen with Iraq and Afghanistan in the past, trying to nation build and to basically make their way of our way of life theirs has not been successful, I think, for the United States. And so I think a lot of people were nervous that that was going to escalate into some kind of regime change or some kind of Western takeover, trying to implement democracy there. So I am happy that that didn't escalate at this moment any farther than that. So I guess I can say that about it. Yeah. Overall, I was on the fence about whether or not I thought that was a good thing. Again, I voted for Trump. Trump campaigned on it. But, I think there's a case to be made too that, people, countries should be able to have their own sovereignty in a way. And there is a feeling that the United States just tries to manage everyone too much. And so, yes, I get, there's two sides of the story. You don't want them to build nukes and that to be used against us. But at the same time, you got to look at it on the shoe on the other foot. If someone were to be policing us and what we were trying to do, how would we like that? So anyway, it's a challenging situation to think about, but I'm just glad he didn't escalate it any more than he did. So, yeah. What do you think about Israel? You think America, you think they have a lot of influence on our decisions in the Middle East, and what do you think about that in particular?
I think Israel is a huge ally of America's. Israel has been an ally of ours for a very long time. I believe Israel is God's country. Mm-hmm. I believe they're very special people. I do believe that what Israel does have a direct impact on us and vice versa. But I do think this is a very important relationship for our nation to continue to foster and for us to continue to be supporters of Israel. And that's my position on it.
Yeah. What do you think? So I've got friends that they were big Q guys when that was a thing. And then it was like, okay, that's not a thing. And then they moved on to the next thing. And it's always the next thing. And right now the next thing is the Jews are evil. Israel has been, meddling in American politics and all the Rothschilds, the bankers, all this stuff. I don't know, maybe there's some truth to it, but I'm almost getting tired of hearing it because it's if you weren't so hard on this one thing that got proven wrong, and then now you're on this thing over here, it's just what's going to be next? Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that narrative that Israel is basically taking advantage of us and Jewish people are basically evil and the root cause of all of the crap that's going on in the world, in the Middle East, in America? You've heard that narrative.
It's hard to know. Media. It's hard to know, really, because we're halfway around the world from them, and what really goes on behind closed doors. It does seem that Israel has a lot of influence on us. Some of it's positive. Of course, we share intelligence with them, and they help us keep ourselves safe. And I feel like a lot of times, when there's goods and bads, you can play them off each other in politics, and each political side can take the one thing that stands, that aligns with their beliefs, and the other side can take what aligns with their beliefs, and they just play them off each other. And I think in politics, that's an interesting thing, because in every situation, every relationship we have with another country, there's always going to be things that align and things that don't align. And so I think there's the story somewhere in between. I think they have some influence on us for sure, and we probably do some things for Israel that maybe is not in America's interest, but at the same time, there are interests that we have to be allied with Israel. And so it's a hard thing for just an average citizen like us who just get our news from whatever media sources we have, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't really know what's going on, and plus Americans aren't typically really well versed in international politics. I don't know what goes on in Israel. I don't read Israeli papers and stuff. So it's just hard for us to know. I think that bothers me a lot. People come out, they assume to know. And it's just how do we just don't know enough.
You just have to vet your information, and you have to look at everything with a critical eye and not rely on just one source. Mm-hmm. Do your own research. Because I think a lot of our problems are we believe everything we hear firsthand, mm-hmm. and a lot of it is misinformation.
Yeah. And a lot of it, it's funny, a lot of it comes from people that claim to not just believe what they're being told, but I'm like, you're trying to prove that to me with a meme. Like what is that saying about where you're getting your information from? You're like trying to say, I don't believe what you hear in the media. Here's this meme. Check this out. This proves that I'm right. And I'm like,
You don't believe all
okay.
memes?
Like,
I believe
most memes.
Hey,
yes.
if they're funny, I believe them for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
As you should.
Yeah.
As you should.
I think, like,
Especially on TikTok.
so people talk about how, like, I'm starting to have a problem with not having a problem with all conspiracies, because we've seen that with a certain issue that happened in 2020, that there was a lot of conspiracy, a lot of information that wasn't truthful, that was shoved down our throats to get us to buy something that was totally fraudulent, in my opinion. And there's some conspiracies that you go, that actually makes a lot of sense when you dig into it. But like, it's, to me, like, it's getting so much that it's like now every company, period, ever on the face of the earth is just out to poison us and kill us so that the government can control us. I'm like, is it that, or are they just trying to turn a profit?
I
Are
think
they trying to make money?
Yep.
And it just so happens that this chemical right here is now found to cause cancer. I don't think they knew that 60 years ago and went, watch this. We're going to feed them this chemical, and then it's going to give them, the government's going to have more control. I think they're just going like high fructose corn syrup, right? That was a way for companies to cheaply
Yes.
Make something tasty.
yeah, exactly. And so they're making a ton of money, and now it's like, hey, that's actually bad.
Yeah.
And the research is there now, and they're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, we're making a lot of money. We got to figure something out here. I don't think it's necessarily always some evil plot
No, we
to
know so
be
much
controlled
more
by the government.
now than
Yes.
we did decades ago. So.
Yeah. So I guess like that's,
I do
I'm just
agree
getting
with
tired
that.
of hearing some of that stuff.
I
It's
do.
just bothering me.
I totally agree with that. With a few exceptions that I've heard, and of reliable sources that I can tell, that they do withhold information from us that is not, they don't want us to know, so that they can, products can be sold or something like that.
Right.
So the new thing coming out, I don't know if you guys have heard of this. I don't know what I believe about it, but that nicotine is good for you, and there's a lot of. Have you heard this?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, like there's a ton of data coming out on this. Like some
Really?
very, very impressive people talking about this. Now, you
Well, it
say,
all
well,
depends on who does the study and
That's right.
what data points they use for their studies. Everything can be skewed to fit
That's
a
right.
narrative.
yeah, that's 100% right. We're in the gun business, and you can skew numbers, and you can do a study to make it look like guns are bad and guns are, or you can do a study to make it not. So that when people say, well, there's these studies, I'm like, yeah, well, studies are you got to look at who's funding the study first of all. That's the big thing. But yeah, with nicotine, they are uncovering, and they're saying that there are some huge health benefits to it. And people will say, well, cigarettes have been banned, they're bad for you, they cause cancer. Well, yes, because there's all kinds of chemicals in cigarettes that are made.
Carcinogens.
Yes. And that's what's really causing the problems. It's not the nicotine. The nicotine's actually natural. It comes from tobacco, kind of like caffeine comes from a coffee bean. So, but it's those other things that they developed that
Right.
Well, any combustible that you're inhaling is not going to
Yes.
be healthy,
Right.
whether it's a cigarette, whether it's marijuana, whether it's anything that you're inhaling that's a combustible is just going to be wrong.
Yeah.
So,
And they do say that. They say when you're taking in these drugs through your lungs, that's the worst possible case, because your lungs your lungs are what are known to distribute this stuff as fast as possible. That's why they're so addictive, because your lungs distribute the chemicals so quickly. There's such a rush.
Yeah. It gets in
And
your
so-
bloodstream immediately.
It gets in your bloodstream immediately. So part of the problem was, you're inhaling it, you're putting it in your lungs. The other problem is there's all kinds of chemicals in there. So, but if you just isolate nicotine, apparently there's a lot of positives about it, and it's crazy.
how do you take nicotine just isolating it? You take a pill or?
There are pills, there are patches now. I don't know if you've
Oh,
seen
yes, like the-
patches.
Okay.
Like Zyn pouches. I'm sure all of those have their other little side effects. Like for the Zyn pouches, they have flavor added in there, so it's probably like stevia or something if they're trying to be healthy. So there's little things, but from what I understand, there's cigarettes had all those chemicals in them, and that's what was addictive, and that was what was causing all these problems. And so they decided, well, nicotine's the problem, and so they're
They're trying to rebrand themselves, I think, the nicotine distributor.
yeah. Well, and that's probably the case. I don't really know. It's hard because, you know, the guys who are controlling the cigarette world, they got out of it a long time ago, and there's a whole new brand of people, whole new group of people, companies getting into the nicotine world again. So don't know. It's hard to say. It's so new right now. And like you said, the studies that they're citing, they're just a couple. There's some studies. There's other studies that may contradict them.
They're only as credible as the people that are running the studies.
That's
What are
right.
your biases? What are your data points?
Yeah.
I just read a study this morning, and I think we can all get on board with this, that ice cream is actually good for you, and it's a heart healthy, like it's good for your heart. So I think we can all get, I think we can push that
Everything's good in
narrative.
moderation, right?
Yeah, we can push that.
That's very smart. Very
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah.
Maybe not everything, but most things.
Most
you know?
things.
Most things. And I agree with that too. Like, okay, let's say you agree with the nicotine and that nicotine is healthy for you. But if you're taking a ton of it, it's probably
Yeah.
not. Just like if you drink, coffee's good for you, but if you drink too much, it's probably going to have some negative side effects. So
Glass of wine,
That's
couple
right.
bottles, raging alcoholic, or heart healthy.
Is there something wrong with being a raging alcoholic?
No, it's the trust tree. You're fine.
I felt a lot of judgment coming across that.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, I've been in Arizona since 2013, so 12 years. I grew up in Fresno, California. I was the daughter of two working class parents. I have a brother and a sister. Unfortunately, we had a very dysfunctional family. A lot of families have their own issues, but we had our issues, but it shaped who I am today. I went to Fresno State. I got my degree in broadcast journalism. While I was at Fresno State, my dad was working at the Men's Warehouse. He was a suit salesman, and a lot of the general managers for the TV stations would go to my dad and buy suits from him. And when I was in college, my dad knew I wanted to be in TV news, and he was selling suits to the general manager of the Fox affiliate in Fresno. And so my dad told the general manager one day during a sale, my daughter wants to be in news. Can you give her a job behind the scenes? She's going to Fresno State. And so a few days later, the news director called me in and said, what's your experience like? What can you do? And I had absolutely no experience. I was taking my general ed classes at Fresno State. And so he said, okay, we'll hire you. We'll pay you minimum wage, but it'll be like an internship. So we'll teach you how to run studio cameras, edit video, run the assignment desk, write. And so I would go into the TV station in between classes. I'd like try and put all my classes in the morning and go to the TV station after my classes. I'd be there until 11 o'clock at night, and I'd do it all over again. So I was literally school and work. I did not have like the typical college upbringing where you go to football games, go to parties, et cetera. That's all I did. My last year at Fresno State, I started shadowing one of the reporters, and I'd go out with him in the field, and he'd let me conduct interviews. He'd let me shoot stand-ups, and so I got enough together to put a demo reel together of reporting. And then at one point, our Monday through Friday evening meteorologist wanted to take some vacation time, and we were short-staffed. And so he asked me to come in for a week so he could train me on how to make weather graphics and what high pressure was, what low pressure was, what the jet stream was, just so I knew enough to fake it, to fill in for him for a week while he went on vacation. And we had a guy that came in to make graphics for me. So I filled in for him for a week, got enough again to put a demo reel together with now weather material. So I graduated from Fresno State, put together a bunch of VHS demo reels. It was VHS at the time. That's how old I am. And sent them out all sent them out all over the country. And I got a job interview in Eugene, Oregon. It was KVAL, the CBS affiliate in Eugene. It was for a weekday reporter, a weekend weather anchor, and I flew to Eugene, did the interview, and I took the job. So I had never lived anywhere outside of California before, just graduated Fresno State, so I'm moving to Eugene, Oregon, one of the most liberal states in the country, but I wasn't politically involved at all, so it didn't faze me. Went to Eugene. I was there for 2 years. I did general assignment news reporting. I did weather. I was a news anchor. At that time, I decided I wanted to focus more on weather. I had a news director in Eugene. Everyone was really young at that TV station. She was like 25. And she said, well, if you want to do weather and TV news, you need to go back to school and get your weather degree. So I did that.
Jeez.
I went through Mississippi State. They have a distance learning program. It was broadcast meteorology. So I'm working full time, getting my meteorology degree, spent 2 years in Eugene. My contract was coming up, and I wanted to get out of Eugene because it rained all the time. I was broke. TV news, you don't make a lot of money. I was making like $25,000 a year.
I bet the hours suck too. I mean, I just guessed. And that's a guess.
I never had weekends off.
Yeah. And are you up early, up late?
Well, so I was on the evening newscast,
Okay.
so my day was like 2 p.m. to 11 p.m.
See, that still sucks.
I know.
You have no
Still, yeah,
life at
that's-
that
I know.
point. Like,
You have no life. You really don't. And it's kind of lonely because you're young. You just moved from home, everything that was familiar to you. You're making no money. You have no friends, no family. You have no clout. You can't just, take vacation time. So it was challenging. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
it's so interesting too because especially when we were younger, we watched the local news and people would come on and they're so put together and they look so good and everything looks so professional but you realize that people are just you almost get this persona that these are special people, like
they're just normal people.
just normal people.
And I'm still like this, but I will get so nervous and so anxious with new experiences. And so this was a whole new career for me. And so when I was going on air, like my first couple years before like every live hit, my chest would get all splotchy and red. I'd start sweating. I'd get a stomach ache. I could barely make coherent sentences. Mind you, I was a TV news professional.
So you had to know that about yourself before you
Yeah.
went into this, and you still just persevered and did
So
it.
it goes back to my childhood. So kind of a dysfunctional family. My parents were both working class. We lived out in the country. I went to school about 30 minutes away from my house. So mom and dad worked during the day. Grandma and grandpa would pick me up from school, and I'd go to grandma and grandpa's house during the afternoon waiting for my parents to get off. And then during the summertime, grandma and grandpa would watch me because parents were both working. And they lived in the ghetto, like in the hood, and they had bars on their windows. I couldn't like go out and play. Like I always stayed inside with grandma. I remember being like 6 or 7 and watching like the O.J. Simpson trial and like the chase and all that, like with grandma on the news, like in her living room. Like TV news was like my like view to the outside world. And that was at a time when people actually watched the news at set times, 4 p.m.,
right.
5 p.m., 10
Yeah.
p.m.
And they actually reported the news.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so not having a very sheltered childhood, not experiencing things, not seeing things, not being happy with my family life and just wanting to go out and explore, TV news was like my outlet. And so when I was in high school, I became a writer for the newspaper. And so that was kind of like my first taste of journalism. And then with going into college, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Also, my mom was a big influence on me. She didn't go to college. She ended up working in insurance. But she had always said when she was younger that if she could go back in time and do anything ever again, she would have been a TV news broadcaster. And she used to tell me that when I was a kid. So that kind of influenced me too. So yes, you put all those factors together. Really, I just wanted to go out and see the world, experience history in the making, and leave my little sheltered box.
So we hear this, we hear this from people too. So like, we had, Cheyenne from Camel Country in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
She was here and she said the same thing. She's like, yeah, morning radio, unless you're John Holmberg, does not pay well.
No.
So it's like, you got to really love
Love it, yeah.
what you're doing. This has to be something that, obviously went to school for it, got a degree for it, but it's like something that's like you're passionate about because, I'm sure like down the road, obviously, the more your name's out there, the longer you become, everybody locally starts to know you. You get probably more pay with better time slots and more. But like just starting out, you just know, hey man, I'm I'm just going to suffer through it for a little bit because this is what I really want to do.
Well,
Pay
and
your dues.
TV news used to have golden days, like back in the 80s, 90s, even like the early 2000s, and their talent used to be compensated. But now we don't see people watching TV as much to get their news. We see people getting their news from podcasts and Twitter or X. And so advertisers are not sending their dollars to TV news anymore, and that's where anchors and reporters get their paychecks from. And so advertising now is being focused on digital, and so there's this big emphasis now pushing anchors and reporters to focus their content more on digital because that is where viewership tendencies are going to now. But yeah, TV news just doesn't make a lot of money anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like it's there's something still honorable about, thinking about the profession, getting up, putting your best outfit on, making sure you're every single morning, every single evening, doing that over and over. Like now we just kind of roll out of bed and, you don't even I haven't put a suit on in so many years.
I don't have a suit. I don't own a suit. Yeah.
So there's something really, there's something cool about that. There's something honorable about that, like every day getting up and looking nice and putting your best foot forward. And I don't know. I just think there's something cool about that.
It takes discipline because no matter what mood you're in, no matter what you're going through, no matter, what struggles you're dealing with, you do have to get up and you have to put on this face that nothing in my life is going on and it's important and I am focused on my job, I'm focused on the stories I'm telling, I'm focused on the people I'm interviewing, I'm focused on my delivery and waking people up, and everything else that's happening in my life, we just pretend like it's not there.
Yeah, you get smiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, you roll through Instagram enough and you see all kinds of funny reels of what happened to reporters or news anchors or something. Do you have any fun stories that you can share? That's something that happened
I have lots of fun stories. Around what theme?
I don't know, something that was embarrassing or funny or a fun story to tell that, like one that I don't know. There's a couple that I've seen where the one guy who's like, he's brand new and he's up there and he gets so nervous that he starts cussing. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
You could tell he's so nervous that he starts cussing and hey, you're on the air, and he just reads it. Oh, anyway, I just wonder if you have any.
I will tell you my very, very first live shot in Fresno at the Fox affiliate. I don't remember what the story was, but it was for the 10 p.m. newscast, and it was something crime related. But I was filling in for the reporter that would let me shadow him. And it was, again, my very first live shot. And I was standing out in this dark field, and I had the audio in my ear from the master control. And they're saying, oh, you're 20 seconds away. Pitch black field, can't even see like anything around me. My photographer's standing here, and he hears, okay, we're 20 seconds away. So he turns on his camera top light. And when he does that, they're counting down, and then they toss to me. And as he turns on his camera top light, the swarm of like bugs, because they're all attracted to the light, starts coming towards me. And I'm like saying my opening sentence, and I don't remember what it was. And this bug lands on my lip. And I'm like, and I step out of the camera and I'm like trying to spit as I'm like trying to talk, and I don't even remember what words came out of my mouth, and they tossed to my package, and I was mortified. Oh my gosh. So yes, don't turn on lights when you're out in the middle of a dark field if you don't want flies or bugs flying at you.
Did you get to and I remember watching you on the news. Did you get, and sometimes you're out in the field, did you get to kind of like pick like, oh, that's a cool story, I want to do that? Or is it just?
Yeah, so on weekends was like my fun time. Saturdays and Sundays was when I did weather, and so I could pick whatever I wanted to do. They just wanted me out in the field doing the weather, giving the forecast, so I could be at Phoenix Raceway doing NASCAR. There was one show where I did Over the Edge, which was the rappelling off a cityscape with all the law enforcement for Special Olympics. I was able to do that live on TV. Wow. So I got to pick a lot of fun things, and it helped me get out of my comfort zone and do those difficult things that you never would think you'd be able to do on your own, let alone on TV. And so, Yeah, I had a lot of fun picking out those live shots on weekends. Weekdays, I was kind of the utility tool, and the bosses paid more attention to the weekend shows or the weekday shows than the weekend shows, so they were more structured. That's where advertisers mainly focused their money on, was weekday shows. So they were kind of more strict about what I covered during the week, but they would stick me on everything. I would go to officer-involved shootings. I would cover wildfires. I would cover traffic. I would fill in anchor. So yeah.
It's exciting. Yeah. So you got out of
I did.
you got out, and then you're involved in Arizona politics.
Yeah, complete 180.
What was the reason for
kicker?
Forget. Yeah.
Well, there were a bunch of reasons, but they all kind of transpired during the pandemic. Shocker.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people reevaluated their life choices during the pandemic. But I was never political. In fact, when I was 18 and I first registered to vote, I registered Green Party. I was like a little hippie, little rocker. Like I was a little weirdo when I was
Fresno,
a teenager.
Eugene.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what everybody was doing in Eugene.
So I was never political. I remember in 2016 when Hillary was running against Trump, I didn't vote because I didn't like either of them. I didn't like Trump at the time, and I was like, oh God, I don't want Hillary as president. So I didn't vote. So I wasn't politically active. And then 2020 came, and then politics started impacting our life. And I didn't like seeing people taking stances in our newsroom with how we covered things. I remember I had to go to a COVID vaccine clinic that was like out at State Farm Stadium. There was like nobody around me. And they were like, put on a mask when you do your live shot. I'm like, there's nobody around me. My photographer's like 10 feet away from me. Like, I'm not going to put on a mask. They're like, well, we're going to get emails. Put on a mask. So like little things like that. I remember when the BLM protests were happening and these thugs were looting businesses and destroying things.
You mean the mostly peaceful riots?
Yes.
Yes,
And
protests.
we
Protests.
were calling them peaceful protests. And so that was a big problem I had. And then during the Suns, remember when the Suns were doing like amazing in 2021? We were covering them like wall to wall for our morning show. And they had assigned me to do a segment with the Suns chaplain. And he's actually a local pastor here. And we did 2 segments, and the segments were, hey, how do you get the team ready spiritually for the game? What sorts of messages do you tell them? And I'm like a devout Christian. And so we talked a little bit about that. Segment was over. Second segment, I said, hey, when we're done with the interview, can you like lead us in like a 30-second prayer? Just wishing the Suns, health, that it's good sportsmanship, like very generic, basic stuff. He's like, yeah, absolutely. So we did the interview, and then we bowed, and we did like a little 30-second prayer. This was all live on air. And I said, okay, great job. Have a great day. And I was going back to the studio, and I pull out my cell phone. I start going through my emails, and I have an email from one of my bosses, and he forwarded me an email, and in his subject, he said, hey, take a look below. Let's not ever do that again. And it was somebody who was an atheist that was offended that we prayed on air. And I'm thinking, if we're getting offended by God, like my company is like catering to people that are offended by God, like this isn't where I should be.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, they wanted us all to get COVID vaccines. And I'm not an anti-vaxxer, like by any means. I get the flu shot all the time. But I like to have the choice. And since this was like a new vaccine, we didn't know about any side effects, long-term health repercussions. I didn't want to get it. And so it was get the COVID vaccine or get fired. And I did something that I am not happy with, but I turned in a fake vaccine card. And that is how I kept my job for probably another 6 months. And I was looking for another job. I was like, this is conflicting with my morals and my values. I don't like this. I need to get out. I started applying at every random communications job I could find, public information, whatever the case may be. I had an interview with Queen Creek Unified School District, and the superintendent of Queen Creek Unified School District randomly reached out to a political consultant that I was friends with, but I was only friends with him because he would be in the studio to tape Politics Unplugged with Dennis Welch. So I'd like see him like in between halls. We would talk about fishing and camping. So we were just kind of friends that way, not politically. But the Queen Creek Unified School District reached out to the wife of this political consultant and was like, hey, Kim Quintero applied. What do you guys know about her? And the wife of my friend was like, oh, I don't really know her. Let me ask my husband. And I hadn't told anyone about this job interview. And he reached out to me and he's like, why are you applying at Queen Creek Unified? You don't want to work for a school district. He's like, I'll keep my ear to the ground and see what I can find for you. And then a week later, the Arizona Senate had an opening that they hadn't published anywhere that was for a communications director. And at the time, the Senate president was Karen Fann. And he provided my resume to her. And they had thought that when she was given my resume that they wanted me for an opening day speaker. And they're like, we don't want anyone from the media to be an opening day speaker, opening day of the legislature. And my friend who gave him the resume was like, no, this is for this position. And Karen Fann hated the media because she was the one who led the audit back in 2020. And you know how much scrutiny the media gave the audit and put her in this like terrible light. And so she didn't really trust anyone from the media, but she brought me in and she asked me a couple of questions in terms of, how would you message the audit now seeing everything that we're going through right now with all the scrutiny that we're dealing with. And I don't really remember what I told her. I think I told her something along the lines of, well, you just have to put out the facts and the truth will set you free. Like everything that you put out, you have to back up with facts. And for what it was worth, she was like, great, all right, let's go. She hired me. Again, had never been in politics before. So it was a huge learning curve. I felt like everyone was speaking Chinese to me at first. But I'm 4 years in now, so pretty good now. I think I got it.
What do you do on a daily basis?
So I handle the media when they're calling and requesting interviews with my senators. I will set up those interviews. I will help draft quotes for senators when reporters are requesting comment on stories. I will write speeches. I will write press releases. I'll write talking points. I basically tell our members what to say, how to say it, how to handle the media, which reporters to trust, which ones not to trust.
So you're like deep into all the BS that surrounds the media, and so you see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes, I could tell you which reporters are.
We'd love to hear it.
Where should I be getting my news? Not Facebook.
That's
obviously.
funny. A lot of people ask that. Like I told you at the very beginning, you have to look at everything with a critical eye. Everyone has their own biases. Everyone has their own points of view, and everyone skews the information they're delivering based on their outlooks and their points of view. So you just have to look at multiple sources. I mean, truthfully, I get most of my news online. I don't watch a whole lot of TV news anymore.
My wife likes to watch the news a lot. Crime dramas, so she can figure out how to kill me and get away with it, and then news, and she listens. She sounds like she's like 70. She's a gorgeous 42-year-old woman, but she listens to talk radio, like political talk radio.
Remember when you were a kid and you're like, oh, those old people listen to
and it's the same thing. We get like if she's driving, we get in her car and it's like staticky, and I'm like.
Because it's always the AM stations.
Yeah. I'm like, can we listen to nothing? I'd rather listen to nothing. I'd rather listen to you arguing about leaving the toilet seat up than listen to talk radio or something. But she's all about the news, and she's like, like our politics are perfectly aligned, so it's amazing. But I'm just like, with the job that I do, it's like, I wouldn't say that I'm involved in the news, but a lot of the news stories, I'm like, I was there. I was like, so I know what happened. I don't need to hear it from the news. I can tell you what happened. So I don't want to. I don't know. I just don't want to hear it.
Well, a lot of it's like death, destruction.
Yeah.
Like it.
And like you, I get a lot online.
Clicks,
so I'm reading. Like I'm seeing. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm interested in that article. So I'm just like, I'm not about it. She loves to watch the news, and I grin and bear it for a while. But
Well, she's in the loop. She's in the know.
She's in the know.
That's right. Yeah.
But the funny thing about that is, so people, right? So Fox News, that's where she listens. Like, but you have these camps of, okay, CNN, MSNBC, all these. This is the only legit. Fox News is trash. And then you have the Fox News people. This is all trash. And I feel like the people that go, hey, don't trust the mainstream media. Oh, tinfoil hat guy, huh? I can't trust the mainstream media. But literally every person that I've talked to, there's probably a lot of your colleagues, probably close friends, or maybe just work associates that probably left for similar reasons. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen a lot of them. Like Tom Brokaw. Okay, he retired. He was just done. I'm done reading the news. I'm out. But I've seen a lot of and younger people that are like, yeah, I'm done with it. Like Andrea Robinson. Like,
everybody ends up getting fired because they say something wrong.
But all these people are like, they're leaving, and it's like, so most people, right? They see you on the news, and then they don't see you, and like, what happened to Kim? Where'd she go? I'm used to seeing her in the mornings, and like,
you just disappear into
right.
The
And then it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe she went somewhere else, or maybe but a lot of people are going, yeah, I don't agree with like how we're framing these stories. So the people that go, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, I'm listening to people that used to be on the news going, advertisers and our bosses who cater to the advertisers go, this is how we want you to spin this. Mm-hmm. We want you to spin BLM as a peaceful protest. Mm-hmm. When we can see buildings on fire, car bombs, we see all of this stuff. So it's like, am I the conspiracy theorist? I've talked to several people that went, I actually left my news job because I was being told to report, not like make stories up, but report them in a way that looked friendlier towards one group or another.
That's because the biggest fear of these like media outlets is to have people not like them, speak out against them, push back against them. And so they try to cave and cater to those opinions to get that populist support.
Well, and isn't it true that you need your advertisers, and if you're reporting on something that goes against your advertisers' interests, they probably won't advertise with you in the future. You hear that, but I don't know. You were in it. I don't know if you saw that side of it, but
they tried to keep us out of the whole advertising business stuff. So ignorance was bliss. I didn't know a whole lot about it, but yes, we did cover certain things because they were a client of the station, or we did big partnerships for things because they were a client of the station. So yes, money talks, and it does definitely influence coverage of events.
Yeah, I think most people too would think, okay, so you went from news to politics. Politics.
I think TV news was way more toxic than politics. Okay. I will say that.
That's what I was getting like. Are you happy now? Or are you like, so you love what you're doing?
I love it. I will say, TV news, while it shaped me into the person I am today, and I wholeheartedly do not believe I would have the job I have today if I did not have the career in TV news that I had. But it was a very toxic environment. It was very superficial, based on appearances, based on looks, sound. There was a lot of fakeness to it. The staff wasn't necessarily appreciated unless you were like the top main faces. Here with the Senate, I have never felt more respected and appreciated by my senators than I have in my entire life.
Oh, you're saving the bacon 9 out of 10 times.
Well, yeah.
They're like, oh my God, I don't know what to say.
Right? So maybe that's it.
Say this and shut up
but
after that.
They see my value, and I feel like that was something that I was missing in TV news. In TV news, you were always easily replaceable. Yeah. There were tons of people, pretty faces, that wanted to be on TV, that wanted to hold a microphone, that wanted to go travel around, and reporters were a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Here, it's hard to find people that want to do my job. I mean, there's like a niche of people that are like gung-ho politics, love it, but it's hard to find people that want to get into this line of work. And then it's additionally hard to find somebody that aligns with the morals and values of, that organization or that party, or with Republicans. So my senators very much appreciate me. They respect me. They love me. I love them. They all have like their quirks, but they're all really good people. And it's funny because you don't hear a lot of people saying politicians are really good people, but they are humans, and they were regular people before they got into these jobs. These jobs just put them in a different position to where they have bigger responsibilities and bigger pressures that, you know, kind of change them a little bit. But no, I have a lot of fun with my job.
Do you consult, I guess, advise everybody from like state senators?
Just the state Republican senators. So my boss is Senate President Warren Peterson. And then we have our leadership team, which is our majority leader, our majority whip, and then our president pro tempore. So those are our 4 leadership team members. And then we have 13 other rank and file senators. Okay. So I have 17 members and a lot of them have been doing this for a while. So they're super media savvy. Like they don't need me. Mm-hmm. Some, like our newer members, will seek me for a lot of guidance. So it just depends on how long the public servant has been in this line of work, how confident they are, as to whether or not they lean on me more so for guidance and help.
So then, so just for the Senate and then the House of Representatives type thing, they have their own.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's like high stress, high pressure, probably on call all the time.
I'm on call all the time, yeah. But honestly, I would say from December to end of June is like my crazy, crazy busy time.
That's like the legislative session. Yeah.
And like now is like my downtime where I can hang out with you guys.
Grateful for that.
We certainly appreciate it. Yeah. Any political aspirations of your own after this?
You know what? A lot of people have asked me that. And like where I live right now in my district, there's going to be a position for state senator for a Republican it's a swing district, so we could go either way. It's currently occupied by a Democrat, but we have the potential to grab this as a Republican seat. But it is my district, and people have been asking me, do you want to run? Do you want to run? Well, unfortunately, state senators only make like $30,000 a year.
Yeah, it's not much.
And I'm not independently wealthy.
Yeah.
So you have to
Wait, you were on the news.
Right? Yeah. You have to have like some sort of like financial security in order to like do that job.
Yeah.
You have to be like retired or whatever, because they say it's a part-time job because you're in session from January to July, but you're working all throughout the year.
What's the actual? I know, like a lot of the council members for the city of Phoenix, they have other jobs, and I guess it is a part-time-ish, full-time job for them. But like, is there so you become a state senator? Obviously,
I would need another job.
Yeah, there's conflict of interest stuff where so me, I work for the fire department. I couldn't be a state senator because I would have direct influence over fire department funding or grant money.
Well,
or like that.
I don't know that you can work for 2 governments. I don't know that you could work for state government and city government.
Okay, but if you were, say you were a school teacher, you could still be a
you could still be a teacher. I think for me, I would just like a lot of people. For example, in the House, we have Representative Wilmoth. He's about my age. He had a TV news background as well. I think he was a producer back in the day. But he has like some sweet random director gig, like some company like made him a director of something. So he can just go spend his time at the legislature, and then he has like this backup little gig that makes some money. So it's hard to get normal people to run for state office just because these offices don't pay very much.
But the good thing about that too is, obviously local politics is really where like the bread and butter of stuff. Like people they focus on the presidential elections because it's popular, but like really like state and then local down into like city council, school board, like that's where the majority of stuff that affects your life, that's where that's getting shaped. So, and I don't feel like I'm not saying there's none, there probably is some, but like big money influence, like Exxon's not going to come to a state senator and go, hey man, here's $10 million, make sure this passes.
Yeah, you have to really want to do the job.
Yeah. Exactly. It feels
not,
more like
not
an
just
honest,
for money and power, but because you want to actually
like it should have been. Like George
Public
Washington
servant.
wanted it to be like, hey man, I'm going to do my time. I'm going to serve my community, the interests of my state. I'm going to go back to being a farmer or whatever. It seems like state politics. There's not. Again, I'm not going to say not any, but it seems like there's not as much of that influence because you don't hear about these people. Like, oh, we all know who.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Well, there's a lot. I mean, no matter how you slice it, there's lots of money in politics. I mean, politics is a huge money maker. But no, it would be immoral and unethical for a lawmaker or a public servant to take money to do something. I mean, we see there was an example that we've been investigating. I know the state attorney general is investigating, the Maricopa County attorney is investigating, but there was a scandal with Katie Hobbs, and we had all these group home providers that were requesting rate increases a couple of years ago, back in, I think, 2023, and all of them were like denied except for one group home provider. They were given a rate increase, and then Stacey Barchinger with the Arizona Republic did a big investigation and found out that Sunshine Residential, which was the group home provider, had made a huge donation to Katie Hobbs' inauguration campaign. And so it's, you scratch my back, I'll so that stuff does happen. It's unfortunate, but.
Yeah.
What's the big story going on right now in Arizona politics?
In Arizona.
Mm-hmm, in Arizona
Well,
politics.
I don't know that this is like a big crazy story, but it's definitely been a talker this week. So Arizona State Senator Annalise Ortiz, she's a Democrat.
Yes.
So apparently there was some sort of ICE raid that was happening in her district, and she posted on Instagram, avoid the area, like get out of here. Here's the location. ICE is here, basically doxing them. Mm-hmm. And so libs of TikTok found her post on her Instagram story and posted it and was like, hey, she's doxing law enforcement, charge her. And then Annalise Ortiz goes and takes that tweet, and she basically was like F-bombing, like, I don't give an F, you're not going to scare me, and Trump's like masked goons aren't going to scare me. And so President Peterson called the U.S. Attorney for the District of Arizona and was like, hey, we have a state lawmaker that is putting law enforcement in danger right now. She's giving out their whereabouts. She's undermining them. And so the U.S. Attorney for the District of Arizona passed that information on to federal authorities to investigate. So that's happening right now. That's been in the news quite a bit.
That's crazy.
I know.
I feel like they're taking their cues too from the federal level, because we've had some federal level senators. I can't remember who exactly, but remember that one guy who, I don't know who the guy was, but there's been some federal level senators doing the same things, and so it's kind of trickling down. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to stand up, but it's like, I don't know. I don't see the value in it for them. I mean, maybe do you think they're
pandering?
Do you think their constituents like that? I mean, I don't feel like it's...
she represents like a super blue district, and it's heavily Latina, so they might appreciate what she's doing. She might be working towards her constituents, but I mean, Arizona voters spoke loud and clear last November when they approved the Secure the Border Act. So
and 56% of Hispanic men voted for Trump.
Well, there's catering to your constituents, and then there's also breaking the law.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
you know what I mean? Hey, look, guys, you voted for me, and I want to do everything I can for you within the law.
Yeah, within.
It's just when you are an elected official and a public servant, like, you have a duty to uphold the rule of law and to support the men and women who are enforcing those laws. What she did is not becoming of an elected official. And if we were in session right now, 100%, there would probably be an ethics investigation. There might be a vote to censure her or expel her from the Senate body. So she did this timing was good for her because her colleagues can hold her accountable, but
Yeah. So when they vote to censor somebody, what is that? And like, when that vote goes through, what does that mean for the person being?
It's just it's just like a public lashing. It's like basically to say, you did wrong.
There's no like.
No. If you expel somebody, which the House did last year or the year before, they expelled a member. I mean, you're done, and then they put someone in your spot. The Board of Supervisors appoints somebody for your spot.
Yeah. Well, where's the $320 million? that Katie Hobbs apparently misappropriated. I heard about that. Where's that? Did that ever get found? Did she find that? Oh, oops. Sorry. That's over here. I had it under my purse. Here it is.
Well, so a lot of that was supposed to be supplemental money that was supposed to go for one of the state, like, Medicaid programs or DDD programs or something. And so there's an estimate every year as to how much that agency is going to spend based on, like, the caseload. And then we get a revision next year from JLBC, Joint Legislative Budget Committee, who tells us, well, actually, they spent this much. And so it's pretty normal. What we did have was we had a radical media outlet, and not radical on the left, radical on the right, that kept saying, Katie Hobbs stole this money, Katie Hobbs stole this money. And of course, like, the grassroots really respect this radical right media outlet. And so they amplified the messaging. So
it wasn't true?
There's no money.
That actually breaks my heart a little bit. I wanted that to be true so badly. But thank you for clearing up. That's so on the truth. So Republican clearing up the truth for Democrat. Like, but I'm still upset about that.
That doesn't mean she's any good, though.
Yeah.
Oh, there's still plenty of corruption behind her.
She's so, I remember when, like, governors, like, even Deuce, like, he wasn't afraid of cameras. He wasn't afraid to talk to people. He wasn't. Maybe you like him, maybe you hate him. I don't care. But, like, he would talk to people, and he would, like, I remember watching during campaigns where she pulled the Biden playbook and she wouldn't talk to people. She, like, somebody found her at a restaurant or something and she hid in the bathroom.
Yeah, I saw that video.
I'm like, dude, you want to be the governor. I'm sorry, but you are the face of Arizona.
It worked.
Oh, yeah. Well,
why do you think it worked? I mean,
because if you say nothing, nobody has a chance to get to know you. And so the less you know, the more appealing that person might be, because you don't know that they're an idiot, that they're, radical left, because they're not talking. Mind you, if we have somebody like President Trump or Carrie Lake, like, they're talking all the time. So you see their flaws and you hear their things that you might disagree with as to why you won't vote for that person. But when you stay hidden and people don't get to know you, they see what they don't like, but they don't see what they don't like from this person.
I guess a lot of that then depends on who you're running against, because Biden did that with Trump and Biden won. But then allegedly, yeah, well, that's a good point. Good point. But then Hobbs did the same thing. I mean, almost like straight out of the playbook. Yeah. And Carrie Lake was very vocal. I mean, she's been around Arizona forever, just like you, in the news business, and around forever. So people knew her. We interviewed a guy one time, and he had mentioned that the reason why he thought Carrie Lake ended up losing was her stance on abortion.
I think she ended up losing because she didn't court the middle.
Yeah, that's basically what he was saying.
Yeah, it's like what decides Arizona are independents and our swing votes, those swing districts. And she catered to the base, the far right, which was going to get her through the primary, but that far right wasn't going to get her through the general election. Independents don't typically vote in primaries, but they do come out for general elections. And so I think that was her mistake. It was, instead of tailoring her messaging to the middle, she tailored it to the right to get her through the primary, but not through the election.
It's got to be a tough decision, though. It's got to be a tough decision where to actually put your message out. You got to be clear, right? But that's got to be a tough one. You kind of stick with what you pick a lane and stick with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's a thing. It's like, you have to stay true to yourself.
Yes.
You have to stay true to your morals and true to your convictions, because if you're trying to appease a bunch of people, you will never win. And so you just have to be yourself and hope that that's what shines through.
Are you a Carrie Lake fan?
I like Carrie Lake. I voted for her, obviously.
Did you ever work around her? Had she been gone by the time you...
Well, we knew each other and we interacted with each other. We interacted with each other more outside of TV news than we did inside of TV news, because we were like competitors. She was Fox and I was Arizona Family. But yeah, no, I liked her. I mean, I do like her.
So my wife was a huge fan of hers. So I only had one problem with her. Obviously, I'm a Republican, registered Republican, I'm super conservative, but I also happen to have a city government job that comes with city benefits. which a lot of people think that Republicans don't like, right? A pension. You don't deserve a pension. You should be in a 401k like everybody else. So one thing that I always appreciated about you is you always get to the fire department. As a Republican, people think that's crazy.
No.
Like, oh, Republicans are good to the... Well, no. You can be both, but...
Well, the funny thing, though, is like I feel like a lot of first responders are
They are.
conservatives.
They are. But when you see like in the media, right? So, well, Carrie Lake shouldn't be our friend because now, so my beef was her and I think it was John Hook at the time. They were co-anchors in 2013.
Hook and Lake.
Yeah. 2012, 2013,
Lake.
somewhere around there. The Goldwater Institute and some other super right-wing PAC committees came after our pension. They wanted to strip our pension from us and put us into a 401k like everybody else. Her and John Hook, huge supporters of that. On the air, vocally, like, oh yeah, this is a good thing. And I actually sent a Facebook message to John Hook, and I'm like, hey, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. Like, the facts that you're stating right now are not true. I'd be happy to give you the facts. And he said something. He made like a snide comment back, and I said, well, you know, I guess pro athlete and, you know, professional newscaster, you don't have to be right to get paid. He got so mad at me.
Oh, he did?
He came back, got so mad. And then afterwards,
It's
I'm like,
because you were trolling him.
yeah, but I was like, dude, you're putting stuff out there that's not factual. And how would you like it if, because the firefighters union has a pretty big political footprint. How would you like it if we decided, hey man, news anchors should get paid even less? And we just came up with this huge campaign about how, you know, you wouldn't like that, dude.
Well, that's the
Like,
problem with TV news anchors getting involved in politics. You're not supposed to take a political stance on air,
Yeah.
but if
Yeah.
you're listening to Fox News or watching Fox News or watching MSNBC, like you kind of go into it knowing what you're going to get.
Yeah. So I never heard, and I don't know that I'm not saying she didn't. I just never heard it or never saw it, that she publicly apologized for that. And my wife said, no, she changed her stance on that. I go, cool. I want to hear it. I want to hear it from her mouth that, hey, I was wrong and this is why. So I had a hard time getting behind that because obviously I told my wife, I'm like, she at one time attacked our livelihood.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, like if I die, you get my pension. Like, and she says that you don't deserve that. How can you support that? And she was like, well, she changed her stance. I'm like, I haven't heard it. Like, show it to me and I'll believe it. And if she's serious about it, I'll be 100% behind her. But I just couldn't really like.
So did you end up voting for her?
I did not personally. My wife did. So we basically just did what pisses me off the most and canceled each other's votes out.
So more of the story, when you start getting out there in the open and you start making your sharing your positions on things and on issues, which Katie Hobbs didn't really do when she was campaigning, people can use that information against you to sway their vote.
Yeah, and that's
especially
kind
if
of
you're controversial a little
Right.
bit, you know.
And I know it was funny because a lot of
Katie Hobbs she got you, dude.
she did. Yeah. I definitely didn't vote for her. For
but
governor,
you didn't vote for her
for governor, I
opponent,
voted for Carrie Lake. For Senate, I was a Mark Lamb guy personally. But I feel like, like a lot of firemen that were big Trump supporters like jumped on like
so hard to
to
know,
support
like-
her, and they got so much backlash. And for me, it wasn't like the union guys were, how could you support her? She did this, she did that, and my thing was just like, okay, like I understand, dude, that was at this time, that was 10 years ago. Things change, right? The information that she was being fed at that time could have just been, hey, this is horrible, this is bad, this is, and she might have just looked at without really researching and went, oh yeah, you're right. And now 10 years, she might have went, you know what, hey, I was wrong on that. It could have very well been the case. I just didn't hear it, so it was hard for me to support her. But
And
like,
so now
guys were getting attacked.
that's how you view her now, though.
So I view her as way better than who we have now. But it was like one of those things where Mark Lamb was going to get my support. That was, public safety, like it is easy. It takes a lot. It would take more convincing. Now for governor, you have the two of them. Absolutely. Yeah, she had my support there, but I still had a problem with it. And for Senate, like I was Mark Lamb, I just didn't, I don't know. But I feel like there's a lot of guys that jumped into her camp. Basically, they said the same things like, hey, man, she doesn't feel that way now. And I'm like, okay, but I haven't heard that. And how many times have politicians said, oh, I said that 2 years ago? Oh, no. Like John McCain, God rest his soul, was famous for that, right? Where he was the maverick. He was, I'm tough on immigration, then I'm all about amnesty, then I'm tough on immigration. Not saying he didn't do good things, but it's like one election cycle to the next, they changed their mind. So it's hard for me to just go, say it publicly, and I'm all in. But
I feel like there are some topics that are not typically on the forefront, right? There's some big topics, and then there's the little topics like that, and it's not little to you, but in the big scheme of things, you know, firemen's pensions
it
are
affects
not
a very small
Yeah,
portion of
so
people.
you're like, okay, well, what is this all about? And then maybe you don't know a lot about it, and you get some advisors who tell you this, especially on the conservative side. You know, we're for small government, but even Ayn Rand, who was, you know, a laissez-faire capitalist, knew that there was a need for government. There was room for government, and that was in one of those things was in the judicial system. You have to have laws. One of the other things was making sure you had a military, and the other thing was making sure you had law enforcement and firemen, right? Those are the things that you invest your tax dollars into, because people need to feel safe, and they need to feel like they can go out and do business and conduct their lives in a safe manner. And so even from the most extreme, I would say maybe libertarian conservative viewpoint, which is Ayn Rand, she knew that those people had to be taken care of, and that was part of something that you needed to do. Now she was for like no public lands, you know, totally laissez-faire capitalism, like no regulation at all. But even she could see that there's some value in that for sure.
And I do feel like most Republicans support fire department, police, and I feel like Democrats say they do, but then they also do the defund the police thing, and they're on that side.
Well, I mean,
but
just
Republicans
like Senator
are,
Ortiz, I mean, she's basically undermining law enforcement.
Right.
There's a prime example. Like, no,
and that's
Democrats
supposed to be
support them.
that's supposed to be our friend, right? That's supposed to be they are for firefighter issues. Well, the firefighter issue is the economy. Period.
Yeah.
That's PD's issue. That's it. Everybody's issue is the economy. If the economy's good, nobody cares about our pension.
Yep.
Bottom line. But I feel like Republicans actually, because they're usually honest, hardworking, tax-paying citizens, so they respect the people that come and provide their services. But there's this weird media narrative that only Democrats support public safety, and I'm like, that's not been my experience at all. Like, but yeah, I was just curious what her, yeah.
What else?
What
What else is going on in your world?
What else is going on in my world? It's actually a very slow time for me right
Is it?
now. All my senators are at conferences this week.
For the Senate or for other?
Some of it's for political action committees. Some of it is for the legislature, developing new bills and priorities for next legislative session. So,
What's the deal with the water?
yeah. What do you want to know?
So first of all, we have water and land. We have foreign entities coming in and buying up our land, and then they're also using our water. And we have Hobbs being okay with that, apparently. I remember we talked to Warren Peterson. Yeah. He mentioned that she has vetoed five bills that have come to her office. And
that would bar Chinese.
That would bar Chinese
foreign entities from buying up.
Yeah. So, is there anything new with that? Is there any?
So she ended up signing a bill after she vetoed our latest bill that was supposed to protect basically our state security, our national security, by prohibiting foreign adversaries from purchasing land in the state of Arizona. She vetoed that bill. She had a big media stunt where she created her own legislation, and it was basically a bill that we introduced a year ago, and she called it hers. And she said, if you run this bill up to me, I'll sign it. So we did. We ran it up to her, and she ended up signing it. But yeah, she had originally it was all politics. I mean,
she had to have a win.
Yeah.
So don't we have a bunch of Saudi? I don't know if it's Saudi government officials or independent citizens, but Saudi nationals who own land here in Arizona, and they use it for like hay production, and they're using a ton of water.
I know one specific case that you're talking about that's been in the news for the past couple of years, and I forgot the name of the Saudi company, but yes, they had purchased land. I believe it was back during, or I don't know if they purchased it or leased it, but it was back during the Ducey administration, and then it came out that they were pumping a lot of the water and using it for like their alfalfa for like back. And so apparently there's loopholes in our state laws that allow that to happen, and I don't know what those holes are. And I don't know the current status of that case right now. You'll have to forgive me on that. But yeah, totally egregious that we have basically a foreign entity stealing our water.
I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head, but the amount of water they were using was astronomical. I was like, holy cow. We're in a desert. And we are a growing state. Our city continues, Phoenix, the major metropolitan city, continues to be one of the fastest growing states. It's been for the last probably 30 years. So, water is going to be important for us, and we don't want foreign nationals coming in and sucking it all up.
And right now, too, we are in the middle of a big negotiation. The Arizona State Legislature and 7 other basin states, so all the states that are around us, in terms of coming up with a new agreement for how much Colorado River water that we're going to get to supplement our water supply here in Arizona. And we have to come to an agreement by next year. And it wasn't looking good for Arizona the past couple of years under the Biden administration with these negotiations. California was favored to kind of get the bulk of water rights. But now that we have President Trump in office, Senate President Warren Peterson and President Pro Tem TJ Shope have been meeting with the Trump administration so that we can get a fair deal, a fair share of this Colorado River water to help augment our water supply here in Arizona. So I think good things are going to be happening for us moving forward, and this is going to set us up for success. We also, with water, we just had Governor Katie Hobbs sign into law a Republican bill. It was called Ag to Urban. Basically, now Arizona will allow farmers to sell their land to single home family developers. Single family homes use less water than farmland. So if a farmer's wanting to get out of the farming industry, or maybe it's not working for his livelihood anymore, the state will now allow farmers to sell their land and turn it into single family homes.
Like rezoning? Like a rezoning?
So that's going to be huge for our state over the next couple of years. It's a win-win for farmers, and it's going to be a win-win for first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
I'm always curious. I don't even know what question to exactly ask, but maybe if I just ask a general question, you'll be able to dig in a little bit. But, we've got a nuclear plant. Used to be the biggest one. I'm not sure if it's the biggest nuclear plant.
Palo Verde?
Yeah, here. Is there anything, is anything to be concerned about with that plant being so close to the city?
No.
Is there any potential terrorist attacks that you guys see, or any threats that are coming in?
Any of our critical infrastructure is always going to be a target for people that want to do harm. So yes, nuclear plants are definitely targets, but all of our critical infrastructure can be a target. I'm not concerned about Palo Verde being in the valley. I think it's an amazing thing. And in fact, I think we are probably, with President Trump, are probably going to start expanding nuclear power generation, especially with small modular nuclear reactors. That's something new that I know.
Heard about those.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So these are going to be like game changers. They're like easier to put up. They're quicker to put up. You can put them in remote areas, but that's going to really help beef up our power portfolio.
Yeah. No, and I'm all for nuclear too, but there's also a risk of, terrorist attacks. You hear a lot of, grid attacks. There's really creative ways terrorists can get in here, especially now that there's, 10 to 20 million illegals in here. We don't even know who's in here. And Arizona's a border state. Now we got a nuclear power plant in our city, and you hear grid attacks on your water, and we have the added issue of maybe we have a nuclear power plant here.
Well, I know our Department of Homeland Security is definitely in the loop as to what's going on with our critical infrastructure, but they already know also that we have terrorists embedded all across our state, our country, and so I mean, we always need to be on high alert with things like that, especially now as tumultuous as the society is getting right now and divided, and I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell you, Palo Verde, we go out there and do a drill with them every year. After the Japan tsunami and that whole fallout, they had to buy a ton more equipment. They have a fire department out there. They had to buy a ton more equipment, and they have to, every year we have to drill to make sure, because if something happened out there, all of the cities around, they wouldn't have enough people on site. So it's like an hour drive from the station I was at, and we'd go out there to make sure all of our couplings fit and everything was compatible. And going in, so our battalion chief called us and he said, okay, yeah, you guys make sure everybody has their wallets. You have to have your ID. You have to have, all of this stuff. I'm like, okay. So we show up and they basically pull us in a fire truck. We're all wearing uniforms. So like we show up, they pull us into this barn, close the door behind us, and a bunch of what look like your old buddies, like up on railings with ARs, just watching you. Dogs, they had this whole thing. And they're like, it's super cold. Get out. Okay? So we all get in the truck, stand behind that yellow line. Okay? ID. Like they were just super. It wasn't like, hey guys, how are you?
They meant business.
It was business. It was business. You hand them the ID, they look at it, scan it, do all the stuff. Okay, matches your shirt.
That's why you get into that business. So you don't have much of a personality.
Dude,
So I'm just
it was so, and they're like literally they're telling us like, okay, open that compartment, and we're opening it. So they go up to my buddy. I love him to death, but he's kind of a problem child. And they go, you have your ID? And he goes, yeah, man, it's right here. And he goes, ID now. And he goes, my name's on my shirt. I'm wearing a Phoenix Fire Department shirt. I got a Phoenix Fire truck. Pretty sure I work for the fire department. He goes, is this going to be a problem? And I'm like, dude, give him your ID. And he goes, hey, man, calm down. And he goes, calm down? You want me to calm down? And I'm like, oh, God, this is going bad. Somebody's getting shot right here. But like it was serious business.
Well,
Like,
you look at down south, the military base in Arizona. What was it last
Fort
week?
Huachuca?
Last week or a week before, where somebody was in a truck, ran through the gate, and they like shot him and killed him.
I don't think I heard about that.
down south.
I want to say it was last
or
week.
something. Or?
I think it was maybe Davis Monthan. Okay. Yes, Google it. But it happened last week. It's like they are ready for like anyone, and he wouldn't stop. And I guess he rammed his vehicle into the fence, and they popped him.
Well, I guess it's a testament to say how long has Palo Verde been there? 30 or 40 years, maybe more. I mean, they haven't had any major issues with it as long as I've lived here. So there's some secret police society over there doing a good job.
Dude, I don't know who they were, but they were all business.
So when I was growing up, we moved into a new house when I was like 6 years old, and my neighbor, there was a kid my age, and I would go over to their house, and we became friends because he's 2 doors down. And it turned out his dad was an ex-New York Police Department guy and retired, and now he was working security at Palo Verde. So every morning at like 3:30, they'd pick him up in a white van and drive him out there because, it was kind of far out of the city, so they'd carpool. And so that's what he did for a long time. I think he retired, still in nuclear business, but I don't think he works for Palo Verde anymore. He's a consultant, but yeah, so they're recruiting guys like that to.
They say that you could crash a 747 into those reactors and it wouldn't even make a dent.
I wonder what would happen if someone tried to do that.
Like they literally say it would just completely disintegrate the plane and not really make a dent in that reactor. Is what they say.
I just wonder if they could scramble jets quick enough.
They have to be able to.
Yeah.
Because
there's got to be a huge amount of airspace.
Yeah.
They can go as soon as somebody enters it. Because you got Luke, right?
Yeah, Luke.
F-35s would be there right now. Yeah. I just heard the other day Luke apparently has nukes. Is that a thing?
I don't know. I thought they just did fighters and stuff out of there. They don't
it
have
is a training base for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I haven't heard that. I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
That's
Well,
if you could find out for us.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what intel I can get you guys.
And if we don't have them, if you could push that through the Senate, we want nukes here.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys have any bill ideas, pass them my way, and I'll send them to our senators and see what bills we can sponsor.
We've got a lot of great ideas.
Okay.
Actually, we've got a lot of great ideas.
You're probably going to regret you said that.
Probably. Yeah. I wanted to have you pass something along to Warren.
Sure.
So when he was on, and I know you know about this, and he probably gets this and probably dreads posting anything publicly at that time. We posted one of the clips. He accepted the collab, and as soon as he accepted it, everybody, all the comments were, "Wow, pass the animal welfare bill. Put this on the and it was like people are coming after him.
Yeah.
Do you not love animals? Why haven't you put this up for a vote?
Well,
we didn't even talk about it.
We didn't even know it was.
We were talking about the Marines being in LA on this particular post. Would you hate animals? Oh God. And I'm like,
those animal lovers come out of the woodworks,
my
guys.
wife, extreme animal lover. She's one of the directors of the Humane Society. She goes, "Oh, Warren Peterson's coming in. Hey, talk to him about this bill. And I'm like, I'm not going to do
I
that.
was one of those crazy animal people, and I was in his office, and I was like, "Are you going to put that bill up on the board?" And he's like, "I'm going to sleep on it." I'm like, "You better put that bill up on the board."
When you
know
say
all the
sleep
flack
on
you're gonna
it,
get
I
from
know
it?
where you sleep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my wife's like, tell him. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to. He's going to come in. I'm not going to attack him and go. By the way, before we get started.
Well, the bill was signed into law.
Yeah. So all of these comments, and my wife texted me the next day. She goes, "Hey, it passed." And I went, "Oh, cool. All right." We posted another clip. And on that clip, just like 100 comments. "Oh, do you hate animals?" So I had to go through and go, "Hey, it passed." Then I started getting frustrated. I'm like, "Do you guys not watch the news?
Right.
Like, you guys are sitting here talking, oh, I'm just trying to help." Well, pay attention.
Babies and animals.
Yeah.
Those are like the two that tug
Yes.
at everyone's heartstrings.
Flip side of that, my wife was kind of upset because she goes, then Katie Hobbs came to the Humane Society to sign the bill to
yeah.
make a big production of it. And she goes, "I have to entertain Katie Hobbs today." And I went, "Call in sick."
Does your wife work at the Humane Society?
She's one of the directors.
Oh,
over there.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So from everybody at the Humane Society, make sure you tell Warren they are so thankful for that.
I will let him know.
Of all the things he's done,
Of all the things he's done,
He cut the rental tax. He lowered taxes.
You're only as good as your last animal cruelty bill. Okay,
Ain't that the
everybody
truth?
knows that. That's
Ain't that the truth?
well, I think we covered a lot.
We did cover a lot.
Any last words?
Like what?
I don't know. Where can people find you? Any words of wisdom?
What's the
I don't
proper
know.
pronunciation of your last name?
Quintero.
Quintero.
Yes.
Quintero for governor, 2026.
Sounds nice. Got a good ring to it.
A real nice ring to it.
Well,
I think they pay. That probably pays.
It
more.
probably pays a
it
lot better
pays
than
more
TV.
than a state senator. We do
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
like triple the pay, but still. TBD. We'll see. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook. No, I don't really use Facebook as much anymore. Instagram and X, KimmyQWX or Kim Quintero. And I don't know. What else?
If you have any
This is
other
your
animal,
moment.
if you have any other animal cruelty issues, direct them. To,
Well, this has been fun,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you for having me.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
See you, everybody.